Joining us now on the line, you know her, you love her, you can't live without her. She's a fan favorite. She's our good friend, Katie McFarland, Fox News national security analyst. Good morning to you, Katie.
Good morning.
We're going to see something out of the White House later today that, I got to tell you, when I first heard this, I think my initial blush, in fact, I think I said, I don't have a real problem with that. But I've been thinking about it since, and I think I do have a problem with it. I'd like to get your take on it. They're apparently going to loosen restrictions on private ransoms for people from Americans who are taken hostage. In other words, the White House is saying we won't actually negotiate with hostages, but if you want to, it's okay.
See, I had exactly the opposite reaction that you did. My initial reaction when I saw the headline screamer was, Obama administration reverses policy and will pay ransom for hostages. I thought, oh, no, we don't want to do that. And yet, as I read more about it, it's not that the U.S. government is. It's the U.S. government is now going to create an office to bring together all parts of government to deal with the families of people who have been seized. And if those families want to try rescue missions, if they want to do ransoms, then they're no longer going to be prosecuted for doing that. I mean, I've seen this up close because a man who used to work for me was taken hostage by the Hezbollah in the late 1980s, and his wife had to go to different government agencies. She was a government employee. She was a Marine Corps officer, and she had to go from office to office to office. Nobody would even help her. Nobody even wanted to talk to her. And I think that it's probably a really good idea for the U.S. government to have a place where those families can go, and at least, what's the parameters? If we try to pay ransom, are you guys going to throw us in jail?
Well, but hold on a minute. If the terrorists now know that, okay, maybe we can't get anything out of the U.S. government, but we can get money for people that we kidnap, isn't that a dangerous thing?
And that's why I'm sort of in two minds with this. Yes, if the United States government is known to pay big buck ransoms, then you better believe you have just increased the currency of every hostage ever taken or to be taken. All you've guaranteed is you might get one guy back, but you're going to get 10 more guys snatched. On the other hand, if a family wants to do it, this is not the resources of the United States government. This is not, we're going to hold somebody ransom and we're going to ask for billions and billions of dollars and expect to have it be paid, or we're going to extract this political concession. I expect that the ransom will be paid in political terms, even if not financial terms. I think it's just a different ballpark and a different playing field. And if all it does is give comfort to those families, that's probably worth doing.
Katie, I'd love to get your reaction to something Hillary Clinton said yesterday. She was asked by a reporter up in Manchester, New Hampshire, and by the way, pretty great job by a local reporter. They're pretty good at interviewing presidential candidates up in New Hampshire. It really pressed her on this issue of the uranium deal that happened under her watch and allegations that her husband and the foundation received a lot of money from interests who were interested in that uranium deal. Listen to this quick exchange.
There were 9 government agencies who had to sign off on that deal. I was not personally involved because that wasn't something the Secretary of State did.
For her to claim that somehow she was not involved in this decision strikes me as extremely odd.
And on Tuesday, Peter Schweizer blasted Clinton's answers on Close-Up in an op-ed that has gone national, insisting his timelines are correct, and that at the time of the sale of Uranium-1, Clinton was negotiating directly with the Russian government over civilian nuclear technology in the so-called Russian reset.
And one of the points that Peter Schweizer makes here is, listen, 20% of the United States reserves of uranium were handed over and transferred to a Russian entity. That's something that the Secretary of State should be involved with, wouldn't you say, Katie?
Yeah, I got a couple of things on this. Peter Schweizer, I've known. He did a lot of work in writing about people who were in the Reagan administration. He is a very thorough guy. He meticulously researches stuff. He doesn't jump to conclusions and then look around later to find the facts to support them. So if he says something, I think he's got a lot of credibility. Secondly, the whole Clinton Foundation, Secretary Clinton, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, and it's probably a duck.
Yeah.
And you have an entity which was all of a sudden, was sort of middling along, and then all of a sudden, the minute Secretary Clinton became Secretary of State, then all of a sudden millions, hundreds of millions of dollars plopped into the Clinton Global Initiative. And at the same time, former President Clinton's speaking fees went up. Well, maybe there's no connection, but if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's the burden of proof, I think, is on the Clinton family, the Clinton Global Initiative, and Secretary Clinton running for president to show that they are indeed that there are no ties there. It's not enough for them to say, hey, you don't trust me? It's like my kids.
Right.
Hey, Mom, you don't trust me? I'm not doing dope. I'm not drinking. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Okay, well, trust but verify.
It seems to me, just a quick anecdote before you get to your question, Brian. It seems to me that the Clinton campaign has decided they have two choices here. They can either portray themselves as corrupt and say, "Yes, you betcha, we knew about it," or they portray themselves as incompetent. And I think she's picked incompetent.
Yeah.
No, I was Secretary of State, but I had nothing to say about 20% of our uranium going to the Russians.
Either way, it's pretty egregious. Okay, listen, we've just learned that the number of people in the federal government who were hacked by whoever it was that hacked them, I guess it's somebody in the Chinese government, apparently is growing. It was at first it started, it's just 4 million. We now know it's 18 million people who were either current, former, or prospective employees of the federal government. And we hear the OPM director say, there's no one person really responsible for all this. Your thoughts?
The Chinese have turned out to be the Don Corleone of blackmail. I mean, and it's not just 18 million people, it's all the people those 18 million people have in their families, their friends, their sort of social network. Look, I think it's time to go to the Chinese and say, maybe it's not you. Okay, fine. But guess what? We're going to tear down your cyber wall. Because and I would do this, actually, this is the greatest weapon the United States has right now, and we're not employing it. Who really are our big enemies right now? The Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans, the Iranians. What do they all have in common? They all have massive censorship of their own people to not have access to the World Wide Web. We may not be able to protect every network, internet network, cyber network, website in the United States, but the one thing we probably can do is to tear down their cyber walls. How about if we tear down their cyber walls as our asymmetrical response to their stealing our stuff?
Yeah, they probably wouldn't like that.
And then let them sweat it out when their own people find out what's going on in the world and what's not going on for them.
Yeah, it's a great point. And also, KT, it seems to me, we just found out yesterday Josh Earnest is one of these people who had his record hacked. This is...
Everybody has. My records are hacked.
Yeah. And so,
and it's not just everybody currently, it's everybody going back to the Reagan administration.
I know.
So given that, what system is safe right now in the U.S. government?
Ultimately, probably for a determined hacker, probably no system is safe. But there are a lot of things that we could do to clean up our systems. But at the same time, defense isn't going to be good enough. I think that what do you want to do in response? Like deterrence, right? We're going to do to you what you do to us, so therefore nobody's going to do it. We're not going to steal the Chinese stuff. Who wants to steal the Chinese information about, developments and research? They want to steal our stuff because we've got it, because they can't make it. So that's not a parity. So the one thing that is the difference, though, is that they're terrified that their people are going to have an Arab Spring, that their people are going to get access to social media and be able to talk to each other, be able to organize under the nose of their government. So I think let's give them something to worry about.
All right, KT McFarland, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.